Welcome back to Foodie Down Bronx. I'm your host, M, the Hungry Dominican. Our first guest is Nadia Cruz, a charismatic, charming multimedia journalist who goes by the name Featured Sauce on Instagram, where she highlights restaurants around New York City, including right here in the BX. Welcome to the show, Miss Cruz.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So you and I met at the panel that I had with the same title, Foodie Down Bronx. That was back in April.
Yes.
And soon after that, I looked up your social media page and I realized that you, at this point, are pretty much a seasoned veteran of being in front of the TV.
Yes.
So can you tell me a little bit about Featured Sauce? Tell me about your career in journalism, because I feel like when I see your social page, I love everything that I see, and there's definitely like a party energy, positive vibe to it. So yeah, tell me about yourself and tell me about your career.
There's so many different things. So I went to school for broadcast journalism, and I thought that I wanted to do hard news. Come to find out, it's not really for me. Like you said, I'm a lot more bubbly and more energetic, and I love to just be in the kind of, like you said, like a party type of vibe. Not party, more loungy. So I interned at NBC at New York Live, which I'm trying to make my way back. And I did like a lot of field production, and a lot of the field production was at restaurants. And I was like, oh my God, this is what I want. Like, why didn't I think of this is exactly what I want to do? Like I was posting about a lot of food. Like I love to take pictures of food, and I'm still in the process of learning about a lot of food, but I've been in love with it ever since. And I'm like, no, this is exactly what I want to do. I want to be developing stories over food. I either want to be sharing the stories of the chefs, the people cooking it, the people that are coming to eat it, or I want to be getting somebody's story over their favorite dish. And perhaps, you know, you can help me cook it, or you can take me to your favorite restaurant and just have a great conversation that's inspiring and educative to those people that are watching.
So it's somewhat similar to what I wanted to do with this show, and I think that's why I responded so well to your page, and because I could see it, the initiative was there, the initiative of putting out these people's stories, getting more of the behind the scenes feel, not so much, I mean, yes, you do talk about food, of course, but it's really about the person behind the food, which I find super admirable, because prior to the taping of this episode, I was interviewed on another show here, and I had said as much. I was like, you know, food is wonderful, you know, cooking segments are fun, that's all good, but hearing about someone's journey and their passion for food is really something that moves me. And so I love the fact that you sort of, you know, put that out there on your page. So going through your journalism, and that's when you, again, like you said, you realize, oh, food is where I have to be at.
Yes.
This is where I really want to push myself.
I mean, that's a short story. I've also served. So I've been a server for 5 years at a restaurant. I took that job because I needed to find a way to be able to leave my full-time job to go back to school. I have a psych minor, and I wanted to go back to be on camera. And it was the only job that would allow me to do that. And at first it was like, well, how am I gonna do that? How am I going to carry this tray here? Because we had to carry them here. And I was so nervous about it, but I wanted to learn so badly that like within 3 months I was great, because I was great at service. I like serving. So everything that has to do with food, I love. It's not only just that's like, I want to make food for you too, which I do, and I share these recipes, and I want you to come over and I want to give it to you, because when you tell me that the food that I made you happy, I'm happy.
Right. Well, I mean, food is such a personal thing.
Yeah. So I like every aspect of food, like where you serve it, who's cooking it, how we made it, where did it come from, what inspired you, everything.
You mentioned before we got on air, you mentioned Danny Myers. You were reading his book, Setting the Table.
Yes.
Is that the book?
Yes.
And that talks about the restaurant industry.
Yes.
Specifically about service.
Yes.
So if you go to a restaurant and you have the best service you've experienced, but the food is not the best, how do you sort of justify recommending that place to somebody? Or do those two things, needless to say, have to be on the same level? Or how do you justify that type of experience?
So for me, they do have to be on the same level for the most part. But if the service was superb, spectacular. This person made me feel good. I'm going to recommend it because I think you need this place for your soul. And I think eventually we can have a conversation with the restaurant like, your food is okay. Your service is amazing. And if we could probably bring your food up to the service level, then you're going to be killing it. You're going to be, because you're doing an amazing thing. I love coming here. So I would recommend it, but I would say that. I said the service is a lot better. The food is okay, but you're going to love going there.
Are there any restaurants that you wouldn't mind putting on blast that maybe that's exactly what happened?
I'd rather not.
Okay. All right, fair enough. Fair enough. I always wonder if I should ask people, like, do you feel comfortable telling me about a place that, again, maybe the food was either, you know, things don't match up. The service was great or the service wasn't great, but the food maybe just didn't match up to the service or vice versa. But I hear you, though. I totally understand. So I've seen on your page that you have actually been to the Bronx. You've put some spots up here. Is there a specific type of food that you focus on? Is it more Latin American? Is it more, or is it just a mix of things? Because I love the fact that you've been in the Bronx period, because I always tell people the same thing. I feel like I'm always on repeat. I don't see enough representation of food in the Bronx. And so when I see a blogger using a platform like Instagram or Facebook or whatever, and doing that, that to me, it's like, you're awesome, because it's so underrepresented on social. So for you, is there something specific, or you just basically go to any borough you want or any spot that you think is just well worth, putting up there? So
right now, yes. I think the mission with Featured Sauce was to be developing more stories with people of color. It doesn't necessarily always happen that way, and I want people that aren't us to understand our stories through these food conversations. That was the mission. But it happens that if I'm at a good restaurant, I think that you need to hear about it, I'm gonna let you know, like, you need to come here. And to your other question, I love ajo y oregano here in the Bronx. I'm from the hood, I'm from Patterson. So for me, Patterson, Bronx, it's very similar. So I'm gonna go back to my roots. I would always say, I'm not gonna leave my house to have Dominican food. But if you go to ajo y oregano, you're gonna know why. Like, it feels like you're at home. The service is amazing. It's a family-owned business. They've never owned a restaurant. They've never run a business. Nobody's in the kitchen has ever worked at a restaurant. And it's admirable. The service, like, the colors, it's like, because we come from humble beginnings, but we make it colorful. We make it pretty. We make it clean. We make it nice. And I think that ajo y oregano in the Bronx is like such a great representation of who I am. So I love it. I'm going to recommend it. And I am going to leave my house to have that Dominican food.
To go there.
Yes.
Yeah, that was the first time that I found out about that restaurant was through you.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Oh
100%. And then I remember I found it on your page and I saw your post, and then I was walking around that part of the BX, which is basically, what's it called? I'm forgetting, Parkchester.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, okay, I know this. Like, I've walked by it, never really paying attention to it. And then because of what you put up, I realized there was a history and there was a story to it.
It's
and it
so
does.
Beautiful.
It's a beautiful looking spot. It's very small on the outside. It's also pretty small on the inside too, but it's, like you said, the interior is vibrant. It's lively, it's beautiful. The food looked amazing. And that was the first time that I realized I've passed by this place so many times, not paying attention to it. But I think it's also because, representation is so important, of course, to us, people of color, Latinos, that, I don't know, I just feel like sometimes you don't pay attention to some of those spots because you don't have it blasted over and over again on social media.
Or they don't have the money for advertising.
Or they don't have the money for marketing, and I'm guilty of, having ignored so many spots that regrettably, I go to them and I'm like, wow, I should have been at this spot, then maybe supporting all these sort of bland restaurants in the city that really aren't connecting with me on an emotional level, which I feel like the more I'm in this whole food world, having an emotional connection is super important to me when it comes to food.
I think that's why we connected.
Because it's one thing to go eat and okay, you're good, you're satisfied, but then you walk away and you're like, well, what did I get out of that? Especially if it comes to food that we grew up with. I don't want to go to a Dominican spot and just have Dominican food and not feel like there's something there.
Right, like
you
my
know?
grandmother made it. Like
Right.
what this makes me feel good.
Right.
I think of Enver and his family. Enver's the owner, like with such a sweet memory. And I tell everybody, you need to go. You must
Yeah.
go. You're going to love it.
Yeah.
So have you gone?
I haven't gone yet, but
Do
I
we need to
actually
go?
we should go. Well, that's the thing. I actually wanted to ask you. Let's go together because I feel like when it
I
comes
love
to
it.
yeah, when it comes to certain restaurants, if I do see it on somebody else's page and I know them and I kind of connect with them, it's like take me there, show me your
Yeah.
experience, let me have it. You know, let's give credit where credit is due. I don't want to walk in there and be like, look at the spot that I found. It's like no, it's like Nadia
It's such
told me
an
about it.
experience.
Yeah, and it seems fun. I want to pivot a little bit to another thing that I found out when I was reading your bio. It said that you did, and we'll go back to food, but this is really like interesting to me. You did improv?
I did improv.
Okay, that's amazing because I
Yeah.
did improv as well, and I have never met anyone else except my girlfriend who's done improv.
Really?
So tell me about your experience because you went to UCB.
I have such a sweet story.
Tell me, please,
And
because
hope
I
don't
love
cry.
I love anything about improv. So tell me about that.
I mean, how I got there to me is more.
Okay. Yes.
So
So tell me that.
Joe, you were following me. Have you been following me for a while?
I had started following you before we met, so it was, I'd say, March of this
Okay,
year.
so I took improv like in October. To make a
Okay.
very long story short, I have a small following. I mean,
Well-
4,000 is
I mean, that's still thousands.
yeah.
Right?
But
the word
it's
thousand
rather
is there.
small, but they're so loyal. And so I had gotten robbed. They took my purse. I had to get a locksmith to get a new key. My car was in the path. And I went on Instagram, I sat down in the path and I cried because I was like, I can't believe how just horrible this week has been. And I
Yeah.
wanted to take this improv class and I'm going to have to take this money to pay for this locksmith. And so I put it on Instagram, and to make a very long story short, my Instagrammers, like 3 people, they found my Cash App,
Wow.
and they were like, we want you to take that improv class. And I go to this improv class, which I was really nervous about. This is great for me, but in front of people, I'm just
Yeah.
starting to MC.
Yeah.
It kind of freaks me out. But it was a great experience. And I want to go back for 2 because now there's so many things that I do
Right.
because of improv. And
Yes.
I think that everybody, regardless of what fields you're taking, you should take. But for me, it was a blessed class. Because
So you took 101
I took 101.
and you didn't go back for 201,
I haven't,
201
no,
yet.
no.
I agree with you on the improv thing. So I took it because I wanted to challenge myself. I wanted to really push myself out there. I mean, I've always loved comedy. Comedy is, it's always been a part of my life. And I just recently saw a live taping of Saturday Night Live. So like, I love.
So you took
that
it for
world.
for comedy.
I took it not necessarily for comedy. I took it for a challenge. The
Okay.
same way that I sort of started doing this show with no background on TV. I was like, I want to challenge myself and do something.
But you took improv, so it helps.
It helps exponentially.
Yes.
To do anything from going up to a stranger to having more confidence in front of other people. You do start
Ad-libbing.
ad-libbing,
It
right?
helps
You
a
know,
lot.
it gets
Yeah.
your wits going.
Yeah.
It does help with socializing in general. And I didn't have a problem socializing. I just felt like, sometimes you just feel uncomfortable in your skin sometimes, and you kind of want to break away from it. So I was like, all right, let me just jump into something like improv.
But you did you go on my LinkedIn?
No. I took it from other means, your information.
Oh,
but yeah,
okay.
but when I saw that, I was like, that's really interesting because again, I haven't met too many people, especially Latinos, who've done improv, right? So it's like, and I'm still friendly with some of my former classmates.
Yeah, my classmates weren't Latino.
No, I had no one that was my shade of brown. It was lighter.
Oh, right.
But at the same
right.
time, I was like, I hope that more people of color get into this, and I felt that with improv and then doing social media, it sort of pushed me out of my own comfort zone.
Yeah.
Kind of like when you're saying, you're DJing now, and it's sort of like still.
Well, emceeing.
Oh, I'm sorry, emceeing.
Yeah.
It's something that, I feel like it's so important to push yourself out there.
Yes.
So I think that's actually very, very cool that you did improv. So tell me your favorite spot that you love to go to, whether it's in the Bronx, whether it's in any other borough, your number one spot, the one that you can put on blast and tell me that everyone else should go to.
So I thought about this and I thought about it hard, but I think right now, and it's not to say that this is always a place or the place that I'm always going to have, but Lady Bird, Lower East Side, is one of my favorite places because I'm not vegan, but I'm lactose intolerant, and there's nothing that I can look on that menu that I'm not going to be able to eat, right? It's beautiful. Everybody wants an Instagram-friendly restaurant. Lady Bird is it.
That is the spot.
The
yeah.
service was amazing.
Yeah.
When I went, the 2 times that I went, my server and the bartender just gave me all of these different things to try. They were so great at pairing my food with
Awesome.
the wine, and I don't know. I love Lady Bird.
So Lady Bird. Okay, Lady Bird. So that's your spot.
Yes.
I agree. It's like, a menu like that is just, you can't go wrong with it, right? So, all right, Lady Bird it is. All right, guys, stay connected with Nadia Cruz on Instagram @FeaturedSauce. We're taking a quick break. Foodie Down Bronx. We'll be right back.